Hi, so this afternoon I am with Michala Leyland. Michala, please would you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Michala Leyland. I'm a performance and mindset coach from Wood for the Trees Coaching, because you can't see the wood for the trees, but when you work with me, you can. And I help you. So the best way to describe it is, when women are in that position where they're either at a point in their life or in their business where things start to get a bit foggy and overwhelming, and they're not quite sure what their next best step is. So I basically support them at that point to help them to get clarity of vision. I help them to understand what success means to them. And I also then help them to really help manage their energy so that they can take those clear best next step forward, and live life and have a business that they really, really want to get up for every single day.
Yeah. Fabulous. So today's Rebooting Your Life is all about rebooting your life after burnout. So Michala, please would you tell us your story?
Yeah, I mean, burnout has been a massive part of my journey in terms of personal development and being a coach. So when I very first started out working with people, my experience and what I wanted to support women with was very much because of my own burnout experience. What I really wanted them to see more than anything else was that burnout is the best opportunity of their life, because actually what tends to happen is that we very much feel when we're having a burnout that actually we're a failure, that we're weak, that it's awful, and that we're, dreadful people who can't cope. And actually it's just not true. And that's how that was my experience of it. So my first burnout happened when I was in my sort of mid to late 20s. I was a young teacher. I absolutely, I'd wanted to be, again, my vision of the world from being very small was be a teacher. I watched my Auntie Corrie, who had her 2 up, 2 down in St. Helens, and she had miniature schnauzers and a Marks and Spencer sofa, which at the time to me felt like the poshest thing in the world. And I just saw how she helped young people in that particular area. A lot of social disadvantage, and she really just was amazing with them. She would buy children's shoes if they didn't have them. She would bring in the food that they needed to do that. So I really wanted to go for that vision. And when I got there, actually what I hadn't realized was, in terms of my personality, in terms of my own self-awareness, in terms of my own sabotaging behaviors, which again I had no awareness of, didn't know what they were, couldn't work through them, all of that, it wasn't the right environment for me to start my career in, really, because I just worked myself literally to the point of being sick. I also, again, because I had a really big people pleaser saboteur, was asked to become second in department in my second year as an NQT. And I said yes, because I didn't know how to say no. Again, so on top of already not really, feeling 100% competent and confident, even though nobody else would have said that about me, it was very how I was feeling. I had a mean little cow voice, is what I call it, that inner critic voice, that was just constantly telling me I wasn't good enough. I then said yes to a promotion that really I should have just said no to and let myself bed in the stage. I didn't. Anyway, long story short, I left teaching and went into the charity sector and had an incredible career in the charity sector. Absolutely loved it. Until, again, there was a turning point for me where at this point I got children, I was older. I'd worked up the senior management ladder. I'd been basically the MD of a charity, a very successful small charity that I absolutely adored working for, and then became the MD when my boss retired. We had to then merge into a really big organisation, and actually it was underwhelmed rather than overwhelmed that burnt me out there, because again, once you get to a certain point on that ladder, you're not doing your zone of genius work. You're not doing the stuff that you love to do. You're in management mode. You're ticking boxes and auditing and doing the finance stuff that, might not rock your world. Didn't rock my world, unless you're somebody whose world it rocks. So it was actually underwhelming, started me on that trajectory. And again, I could feel myself going down that burnout route. And what again, one of the things, I don't know again whether you empathize with this, Emma, but I think when you've got a hyperachiever saboteur, which is what happens to me, is that actually working harder is my coping mechanism. So that workaholic tendency just tends to go more and more, which again just contributes to the burnout. So those two experiences, eventually I just decided, right, you know what, enough's enough. I'd started a personal development journey. I'd done some healing work around some stuff that I needed to sort of settle from, you know, sort of through my past, etc. And what I did then was I thought, no, it's either now or never. And that's when I set forward for the Trees coaching. And I was very, very passionate about helping women to avoid that overwhelm and avoid that burnout scenario by using all the tools and all the strategies and all the things that I'd been learning as I went on my journey.
Yeah, very similar to me, really, in that respect. So if you kind of look back, can you pinpoint a turning point, you know, with those sorts of anything that really was kind of the real trigger?
I think the big thing for me, I mean, and again, this is not a reflection on anyone who has to do it or anybody who it works for, but for me, I was doing a big commute daily. It could be a short commute, but actually with the traffic and the journey I had to take, it could end up being an hour or so long. My eldest daughter is very introverted, naturally introverted, and being in after school club from 7:30 through till 6:30 every single day was really difficult for her. And so that combined with my underwhelm and my need to, you know, I was also working part-time, but not working part-time. So I would still be working on a Monday and a Friday. Again, my choice, not because my employer wasn't great and made me do it. It was just because that was my mode of operation, you know, always just
expectation of yourself.
And so when she started I could really see her just she was struggling all the time. And I just got to that point where I just thought, do you know what, is this it? Is this really what my definition of success is? Is this how I visualize my life? Is this how we want to carry on as a family? And, you know, I had so little left in my energy tank at the end of a day for my family once I'd given it all at work, that I just thought, this can't be how it's going to be for me. And so consequently, you know, obviously had a conversation with my husband, but then did a load of work on myself in terms of the vision that I had for our life, in terms of the vision that I had for my business. And then I decided, you know, again, it was a big leap of faith, you know, because I didn't know whether it would work, but I would set up and run my own business. And that was the turning point for me. There is like, I wasn't in burnout at that point, but I knew I was absolutely heading for it, as I had done in the teaching. You know, the teaching, I was ill. I mean, I was really ill. I'd lost 1.5 stone, which I couldn't afford to lose. You know, what my appetite had gone completely. You know, all the classic burnout symptoms. What was happening probably more at this stage was, you know, that lovely martyr syndrome that tends to happen when you're in burnout, where you just resent everyone and everything. That was starting to happen for me, you know, sort of as a mum and as a wife and as, you know, and project managing lots of projects. And you just start thinking that, oh God, you know, nobody else can do it, and everybody's expects this of me. And actually again, it's all going on inside, and half of that is just made up in your head. It's not actually true. So so for me, that was the big turning point, that I just, you know, I knew that this burnout was coming. And again, I just thought, rather than let it happen to me this time, I used the opportunity that it was presenting, that actually you need to look at what, you know, again, I say this to clients all the time, you know, what are you doing and why? Really understand why you're doing things. Why are you taking your kids to 7 different, I mean, this was something, again, I was doing, you know, taking them to lots of different activities, because that's what you should do, shouldn't you? You know, and actually my eldest particularly would struggle going to so many really sociable, high stimulating things. But I didn't really understand that about her introversion at that point. So I was doing it because that's just what you do, isn't it?
You thought was the right thing.
You know, so that for me was really important. And then what I did once I sort of set up and run my own business was, again, I had a very strong focus. So initially I wrote this book, which is called Bounce Back from Burnout.
Yeah.
I did that in 2016, and it was very much the book that I wished I'd had when I was in my really serious teacher burnout, because ultimately everything was just too demanding that I was trying to read about burnout. It was so psychological, so, you know, all about, it was just almost too academic, the things that I could get access to.
Yeah.
This is literally me hand holding you through getting clarity to find out what's going on for you and what do you need to do to get out, you know, out the other side of the burnout. So it's looking at the mental well-being issues and looking at the environmental issues that can be really impacting on you through burnout. And it gets you to a point in the book at the end where you can start actually thinking about exciting things like a vision or a success definition that's going to work for you.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just trying to put a comment up.
Hi.
Yes, hi. So did you, there's quite a delay on the comments, definitely. So in terms of kind of, obviously you had your burnout, and that happened kind of, or no burnout, a couple of times. What did you do? You know, what were the things? How did you actually reboot your life?
Yeah, I think having a clarity of vision was like one of the first steps. So actually, what do I want? Why do I want it? And get really, really clear on understanding that. I think the other things that I do again is, and again, a big part of how my coaching sort of practice has evolved as well, is really understanding energy management. So how you manage the 4 dimensions of your energy. So your mental, your emotional, your physical, and your spiritual. Because again, one of the things that no one ever teaches us, or that's a skill set. It's something that you absolutely can do for yourself. So it's really recognizing that you've got tools in your toolkit. When you are up here and you're overwhelmed and you're stressed and you know, the adrenaline's pumping and the cortisol's kicking in, there's lots of physiological things that are happening to you, and you sort of don't, you know, again, you just, when you're in it, you don't recognize that these are just natural human normal functions, you know, things that are happening physiologically to yourself. So consequently, you know, what coping strategies you use to just bring yourself back into that lovely performance sweet spot where you are engaged, you're feeling confident, and you're feeling joyful. You know, you've got access to that. Same actually when you're feeling very flat and lethargic, or feeling at worst depressed.
Yeah.
You know? So again, there are ways of bringing ourselves up. And so again, a big part of that for me was just absolutely just having self-awareness around my self-care, because in all of those other scenarios, and again, I know you will empathize with this, and I know a lot of people who will work with you will understand this. You just put yourself at the bottom of the list all the time, you know, to the point where, for example, you know, I ended up having health issues because I just kept on putting off going to the doctor for a regular routine around my smear, for example. Because work was always more important than me. And, you know, so, and the same as well, we don't listen to the action signals that our head and our heart and our body are giving to us. So I would constantly just, you know, if I was getting lots of sore throats, you know, there was lots of physical things starting to happen, but actually there was things happening well before that I could have been listening to and hearing and seeing to help me balance out that energy that I just was ignoring all the time, or masking.
Sometimes that level of self-awareness is really interesting. And sometimes when I do work with people on kind of what are their stress triggers, when they start thinking about, you know, perhaps, you know, how does it manifest in terms of, you know, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, actually physiologically what happens to them, it is really interesting, because quite often one of the comments that I get is, I didn't realize that was stress. So, because once you start discussing it, you know, for example, if you're in a group coaching session, someone feeds back and says, oh, well, I get this and I get that. And they go, oh, you get that? Is that stress? I didn't realize that. You know, so I didn't realize that was one of the things that's stress related. So, but a lot of it is kind of that self-awareness, isn't it? You know, and actually getting to having the time to get to know you.
Definitely. And that's the thing. Most people don't give themselves time. The other thing as well, again, I think this is a big thing for me as well, which has been a real one of the ways that I help and support clients is managing their energy rather than time. Because again, we're always against the clock. And that was one of the big things for me, actually, where, particularly with that, when we talk about the commute to go and get the girls back from, if I was late, then we'd be charged £15 for every 5 minutes that I was late. That I would have to leave work, but things wouldn't have finished at work. So I'd be on a call all the way on the commute, finishing off the conversation that I was leaving somebody in the corridor, So that constant feeling of being against the clock massively contributes to how you are feeling you're depleting your energy and you're always on the back foot and always behind, which again then has a mental downward spiral because then you're never feeling good enough. You're not good enough for your kids because you're not getting there on time. You're not good enough for your colleagues because you're having to leave the office. You're not good enough on the project because you're having to do X, Y. It's this constant
guilt, isn't it?
Always and going downward in that downward spiral. So again, one of the big things that I've really worked long and hard with clients, and I've got a mental wealth club that supports women with this, is actually understanding and having that solution focused upward spiral. So using solution focused questions, because when we get on the downward spiral, that mean little cow voice gets louder. We start asking questions like, what's wrong with me? Why am I so rubbish at this? All the things that start to come out, although that negative self-talk starts to come out, you find all the evidence of why you're rubbish. You were happy with your daughter when you picked her up because she was whining. We were just laughing then about trying to get the kids out this morning before we started the broadcast. You can really get yourself on that downward spiral about that. And those things that are happening in work and in your life, then just the energy leaks across from each of them. So, you might have that bad start to the day at home, but then it will leak into how you start your day and how you're getting on with your work at work. And when you're in burnout, that downward spiral, it can often be very slow. It's not necessarily a real fast downward spiral, but it's just a real downward spiral that sort of just drags you down in the way that you're thinking. Or as I say, you end up in that fight, flight, and freeze situation where you're on constant alert. So the adrenaline's pumping through you all the time because you're against this clock and you're against the deadline. So managing your energy and the way that you actually manage your days energetically can just massively impact that as well.
Yeah. I think it's quite interesting what you're saying around kind of that downward spiral, because often you don't kind of notice, it's very slow. It's the same kind of with stress, isn't it, in your stress level. Some people who who I've worked with who have ended up in burnout and coming back from burnout, they've not necessarily noticed that build up of stress. And I think quite a lot of people have felt like that. For example, they've gone into lockdown, for example, they've been on full 100 miles an hour, and then they've got the opportunity to pause. And it's the first time they've paused in 5 years. And now are thinking, well, what do I actually want to keep from?
Absolutely. I mean, exactly. And I think, I've done several vision board workshops and about to do another, and it's for that very reason, because I think so many people through this whole lockdown experience have actually gone, hang on a minute, like stress is the norm. Stress is the way that our society and our working lives have been built to be. In fact, if someone says, how are you? And you don't say busy, people feel guilty, or people feel like they're embarrassed to say, actually, I'm dead calm and I'm all good and everything's great. It's like, you've got to say you're busy, otherwise you're not doing it properly. And that's the badge of honor, isn't it? I think it's like page 2 of this or something. It's like, it's the badge of honor in being busy. But again, what are you doing in that busyness? Is it stuff that's actually lifting you up, lighting you up, making you feel good? That's why I talk about underwhelm in my sort of second burnout. This book sort of leapfrogs to, because it's like, it's that underwhelm can actually create as big a burnout as when you're
Yeah.
stressed and overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's like your energy, it's like working out what things boost your energy and what things take your energy. And often and trying to work with that and plan that into your day. Realize that sometimes by taking a break and a walk, in an evening or away from your desk and, going and taking a bit of time for you actually might mean that you're more productive when you get back to it.
Definitely. I mean, when I work with clients, we talk about, in reality, the average human or even the extraordinary human, as I would consider probably a lot of your clients to be, not my clients to be, they're pretty bloody extraordinary when you think about the amount of stuff that they're managing and the amount of things that they're doing. The other thing as well, actually, just before I say this, is women's, the whole, aren't women great because they multitask so brilliantly? Well, again, it's like, again, it's not good to be constantly multitasking. It's draining. That's another big part of it. But we basically, as humans, have a sort of 5 to 6 hour performance energy high window. And then the rest of the time, we're either in moderate or low energy. So again, this is why when I talk about managing your energy for maximizing your productivity, it's okay, well, and again, this is why it's so important to get clarity of vision, get clarity of understand your goals, because then you know what to do in that high energy zone to actually make the best of it, rather than doing lots of the busy, not very impactful stuff in that energy time zone. And that can be different things to different people, again, because you know me from being around a good while now, and my hashtag sod the shoulds, a big part of that is, some people will say, well, you need to be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and getting all your stuff done and having your morning meditation and blah blah blah. Well, that doesn't work for some people. Some people are night owls. Some people are people who don't want to do a 9 to 5 day. They want to do another type of day, And it's really important that you find out when your energy sweet spot is, so that you work in it that works for you and works for your family and works for you. And again, that will shift. My time frame now is very different because I've got 2 teenagers.
Mine is. Mine used to be really, really early in the morning, but I don't know. I think making up for all the years where I survived on 5 or 6 hours sleep because I had to be out the door, and my sleep is very precious to me now. And then someone will say, "Oh, you want to call at if you want to call at 8 o'clock?"
No thanks.
I used to be in offices for 7:30, sometimes earlier.
Exactly. And that's the thing. I mean, when I was in teaching, I would leave the house at I'd be out the house by 7 and in school. And then I'd leave school about, 6, 7, come home, work again. And so, it's like, well, I don't want to be doing that. Now, it's interesting because sometimes I will do quite a bit of evening work because I become like the Duracell bunny from about 7:30 till about 10 o'clock. So I love doing like live masterclasses or doing teaching stuff and all that sort of thing. And it's also the time when my kids aren't interested in me anymore. They're like, go away, mum, now. I've had enough of you after school run. But there's a big window in between from school run to, sort of that sort of time after tea, where actually I want to be really present with them. So it really works for me and how we run our lives now. So I think, again, it's just having self-awareness. Again, I know some roles will, some jobs and some roles will have constraints around that to some degree. So it's what you're able to do. But again, that's where I say, we all make choices, and it's about deciding, okay, well, what if that's a compromise that I'm going to make because I want that salary or I want to stay in that job role, then where else am I not willing to compromise to make sure that I get that self-care? And I think, you mentioned it before as well, those energy resets during the day are really important as well, because if you don't have that recovery time, your body has not got the chance to allow those other happy hormones in, because you're constantly on that cortisol, adrenaline. I mean, you almost become like a bit of a junkie for it. It's like your body doesn't know what to do without it, and that again is really unhealthy. It's really unhealthy, and that's when the physiological and the actual real genuine physical ill health starts to happen. And I didn't, you know, as a young teacher, I didn't have a clue about any of this. I didn't know any of this was going on in my body until 10 years later, when I started to look at what was going on. And then I look back and go, whoa, like that was all because of that. And I had no idea that's what I was doing to myself, none whatsoever.
Yeah. I just thought that, you know, I was, you know, I was superwoman, and my resilience was so much that I was unbreakable. And I did it, you know, I worked ridiculous hours for 19 years. I still, you know, I still have, you know, a tendency to, you know, I do want to, you know, drive my business forward. I want to be there as much as I can for my clients, all the rest of it. But there does have to be, you know, some balance in there. And, you know, that's all of that is about it gives you continued resilience, doesn't it?
Definitely. And I think that's really important as well, because I think when you know, again, if you've got that, you know, I think you're naturally giving, and you know, you don't want to lose those big parts that are great. So when I talk about the people pleaser saboteur, it's not all bad. There's a big part of that people pleaser saboteur that makes me a really nice, great, not just nice, but like a good person who, and also the hyperachiever makes me want to have good standards of work. What I would say though, again, it's not letting them rule the roost. It's not letting them drive the train or the ship. It's creating clear boundaries around what's okay with you and what's not okay with you, in terms of how far you go to make that vision realized, or make that definition of success become a reality. And again, that's all around your self-awareness. And for me, self-awareness is one of the key parts of
absolutely.
isn't it? You know, it's the key part of self-care. When you really care for yourself, you are having a self-awareness. And again, not in a like a self-indulgent, navel-gazing, oh God, the world revolves around me way.
No.
Because everybody benefits when you are well, when you are at the top of your game, when you perform at your best, when you are, you know, doing everything in a really good energy. Everyone benefits. Your kids benefit, your clients benefit, your partner benefits, your friends benefits, and most importantly, you benefit.
But it's also, I think, you know, just having sometimes working out what like you said, like your non-negotiables are in terms of self-care. I mean, I do quite a lot of work with people on that as well. So that's just trying to, you know, for example, it could be that it's something as basic as having a 30-minute walk, you know, so many times a week. But when you go for that walk, is trying to be present in that walk, because even if I'd have had the opportunity to be present in that walk in the past, which I probably didn't have the time to, it was more when I went on that walk, I'd have probably been speaking to people, because I'd have been trying to do my job at the same time as doing a walk, as exercise, you know, as exercising. I would see it as exercise, and I would know that physical self-care was important, but not necessarily mental self-care.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I know when I very first started Wood for the Trees coaching, I would go on walks, but I would play personal development stuff. As went along, and then all of a sudden I sort of thought, do you know what, I'm still switched on here. This is it. I'm not switching off. I'm not just being. You know, so I actually stopped doing that. It took me about a year. I actually I don't regret it, because actually I did a lot of learning on those walks. But as I sort of got stronger and more, again, I was walking my talk, even, you know, as much as I possibly can. I actually started to realize, those, you know, when I go on a walk or when I go on a run, just be completely present in that space, and just allow yourself to just be. Again, it's one of the reasons I go for singing lessons regularly, not because I'm a great singer. In fact, I really do need the lessons, but because, you know, again, that's the only place probably that I don't have a role, apart from just being completely 100% me, like little girl me. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not a mum, I'm not the business person, I'm not a coach, I'm not a sister or a mother, or, you know, I'm just me.
Just doing something for you. So, but sometimes that when you have you've got that sort of thing. But when you take the time to just be present, you can sometimes think, right, okay, what am I, clear your mind. What am I doing? What's going well this week? What's not? Have I taken time? Have I stepped back? Have I overreacted to things? And that what could I do differently? Have I reacted? Have I responded? You can literally think about, how are my stress levels when I go out, in terms of measuring yourself from kind of naught. How's my energy? What's my energy level compared to so just by just sometimes having that, short amount of time can really make a massive difference, can't it?
Definitely. And again, one of the things we do a lot of work with one-to-one clients is looking at the different coping strategies. So again, we do lots of things like overworking is actually a coping strategy.
Yeah.
So but for some people it might be taking the edge off it with a black bottle of wine a night, or having too much to eat, or constantly going for comfort food, or whatever it might be. There's loads of different ways. Gambling, excess shopping. It's again, and none of these things are a problem if in moderation, but it's when we're using them as a tool to just overcompensate and to cope with stress and with the things that are going on in life. So I think again, it's having those things, whether it be exercise, whether it be meditation, whether it be mindfulness, whether it be journaling. There's a million and one other things you can do that create those healthy coping mechanisms. And again, I just didn't have any of those when I was a young teacher. I didn't have a clue. And it's funny actually, because I always wrote a diary as a kid. And again, I'm really thinking that now, and I look back and I think, that was a way of managing teenage stress. And then just suddenly, I think what it was actually, I stopped doing it. My husband and I met when I was 18, and when I went off and hit to university, and we were long distance. I used to write to him instead, so actually he became my diary. But then we were long distance for 5 years, and then I just got out of that habit once we started letter writing of doing the journals. And so again, when I got back into that later on, of actually using journaling to just channel my feelings, my thoughts, what energy was going on with me. Again, there's a really great mechanism. So I think it's like you said, Amber, it's finding those techniques that are going to work for you. It's having that self-awareness of what is going on, what are the different feelings that are coming up, and using them as action signals. And burnout is just one massive action signal. It's a big signal you haven't listened to yourself for a long time.
And all those little signals you had your earplugs in for.
But it's an opportunity, and it's a great opportunity. And once you get through that and you start to work through that, getting that clarity for yourself about what you want, what you need, why you want it, and that's a big thing as well. Again, we work in this world, we're very conditioned into what we think we should want out of our lives. And so again, just sometimes just pulling back and saying, well, do I want, is this really important to me? And if it's not, why am I striving for it? Or why am I trying to get this, why am I doing this, and this, just so I can pay for that? Well, actually, I don't really want it. I'm doing it because I want other people to think I look good because I've got it, or whatever it might be, And actually, when you get a vision then that is yours, that you are really, holding on to and working with, you can actually be, much happier on a daily basis.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a lot, it's, working back through kind of, your story and working out where you want to be, and actually in that vision, what strengths have you kind of picked up along the way that are going to help you get there sometimes is also a great thing to do. Absolutely. So thank you so much for coming on this afternoon. And if anybody wants to get in touch with Michala, so she's mentioned about her vision workshop and also her coaching company, which is Wood for the Trees Coaching. I am also running on the 14th of September, running a mental fitness Reboot 5-day challenge. So if you want to know more about rebooting or want to look in more detail about what mental fitness really is and increasing your resilience and performance, then the link is above if you want to sign up for that free training.
And can I just say, seeing Emma's work, I know a few people who have been clients of Emma's. That reboot is going to be absolutely fantastic. So you absolutely need to jump on that. It's just, I think if you're managing any stress at the moment, get in there and get doing that, because again, that could be the thing that triggers you just taking those next steps moving forward. So
yeah. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.